unfortunately, for adults living with disabilities in our community, that lack of infrastructure, social infrastructure, just creates a lot of loneliness.
Welcome back to Currently the Conversation, brought to you by TVC Cherry Capital Airport, your Northern Michigan connection. Today we're talking about something that I think all of us can relate to, wanting connection, purpose, and community. For many adults living with intellectual and developmental disabilities, those opportunities aren't always easy to find. That's where Better Together of Northern Michigan comes in. Joining me today are Jamie Bell and Kate Mead from Better Together of Northern Michigan. Jamie, Kate, thank you both so much for being here today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gosh, it's nice to, I've been thinking and hearing about this organization for probably the past 18 months or so, maybe 2 years, and I've really wanted to dive in and find out more about it, this is kind of the perfect month to do so. It's Disability Pride Month, right?
It is.
So what does that mean, Disability Pride Month?
Disability Pride Month is the month of July. So originally it was started to recognize the passing of ADA laws, and it's really turned into something bigger where we just get to honor differences, celebrate people in our community living with disabilities, and recognize that they make contributions every day.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, what a wonderful thing to celebrate. But, getting to the root of Better Together, let's start at the beginning. And you are one of the original board members, Kate.
Yes.
For someone hearing the name Better Together Northern Michigan for the very first time, how would you explain what it is that you do?
My husband and I, Rob, both on the board, we had the incredible privilege to meet the founders of Better Together, and it started off as a vision. They have 3 women. They have adult children living with intellectual disabilities, and they wanted to provide a means of breaking isolation, combating the loneliness of living with in a community that has so much to offer, but sometimes does not see kind of full visibility of adults living with disabilities.
For sure.
And so they knew that they needed to bring the community together. And Better Together, it's kind of has 2 perspectives. One, it's about bringing together this community of adults who have very special personalities and incredible kindness and just love to be together and just really shine. So bring this community together. Also bring our greater community together because we are better together. So we act as a bridge to all the other services that are up here in Northern Michigan. But it really comes back to, our founders saw that there was a great need in Northern Michigan to provide social opportunities, friendship, recreational opportunities, really to provide fulfillment and enrichment and purpose.
Yeah. And, Jamie, I think you had told me that the founders had children of their own, like you were saying, Kate, and they were about to age out of programs that are implemented really for school-aged and maybe a little bit older young adult programs. What does Better Together, what do you specialize in?
So we specialize in holding space that is without agenda. So there are some great organizations in the area that are focused on workforce, that are focused specifically on housing. And really there was a need for this social component. So knowing that there's more to life than just going to work and going home. We really wanted to engage communities. We wanted to engage family members. And that's how this really all came to be.
If I think about it, the mission is creating opportunities for these adults with disabilities to build these friendships and to build confidence and to build community. And of course, that is something that sometimes people who are maybe living in the world outside of, of Better Together just think, they take it for granted, right? But this mission is so important because that kind of goes away after those school-based programs,
Yep, that infrastructure and routine and purpose that, students have through high school and then there is some programming that supports adults with disabilities through 26. But when other kids kind of finish school, they start jobs, they, they develop relationships with other, peers. They're able to their life kind of takes off.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, for adults living with disabilities in our community, it has really meant more of a pause.
Yeah.
And that lack of infrastructure, social infrastructure, just creates a lot of loneliness.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I think loneliness is something everyone can relate with. As you mentioned, Jamie, the difference between some of these other really amazing organizations that are doing wonderful things, but they have that agenda that you talked about. They have that sort of programmatic activity-based mission versus your mission being building relationships. How does that look? Like, how are you structuring yourselves it's the people who are attending your program are able to build those relationships without the agenda?
Well, we really are focused on the family as well. So we know it's more than just us holding the space. What happens when people leave Better Together matters too. And so caregiver support is a huge part of what we do.
Yeah.
Recognizing that burnout is real, realizing that isolation moves beyond just the members, but also to families. It can be very demanding. We know that members or people living with disabilities are 70% more likely to experience extreme loneliness and isolation.
Wow.
And that's a huge number, and it really impacts everyone in their worlds.
So do you see essentially, I mean, it's one large community, but you're seeing sort of these relationships breaking off with people who are participants in the program and then people who are family members in the program, and then they build these supportive relationships beyond the doors of Better Together.
Oh, absolutely. So to take a step back, so Rob had a brother, Scott, with Down syndrome. I actually have my nephew with Down syndrome. And I've seen it from both perspectives, the need for that support and even respite for caregivers.
Yeah.
And so when we look at building out our activities and our programming for our members,
Right.
We've made this priority to also provide this connection and resources for parents and caregivers. And we have seen parents who've met other parents at our clubhouse kind of form kind of their own conversations and support groups is really critical. It's our mission is first and foremost to provide a safe place for peer engagement and social growth, but closely following and as critical by many measures is just what we can do for caregivers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's
burnout is real.
Kind of creates a sort of holistic space, right? Like you're going beyond providing social opportunities for members, but into the space that's oftentimes caregivers do seem like the invisible. They're forgotten often. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Talk about the clubhouse a little bit. Tell me about what if someone was walking into the clubhouse for the first time, what would they experience?
Well, the clubhouse is situated right in Traverse City off of 3 Mile Road, Business Park Drive. You head east about a mile, and we're in the old Boy Scout headquarter building.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
That's beautiful.
It's a cool building. It's a log cabin nestled in the trees. And so it really does have a warm, cozy feeling. When people come in, we do offer some structured activities. So whether that's a game night or a different art activity, that's an option that's offered. We also have just open games for people to come and choose what they want to do. Mm-hmm. Some people like to come in and participate in the planned programming, and sometimes people like to do their own thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's day to day. So just opening our doors and having a variety of offerings is really important. It's really important to us getting to know family members, getting to know people by name. Mm-hmm. We are really a close community.
I love that you have some sort of, scheduled, programmed, planned activities, but, you have choice, you know, that an adult who maybe doesn't want to participate, just wants to hang out. I mean, totally cool. Because I often wonder about this, you know, especially with adults as they're aging out of these other programs, that power of choice and to be able to say, you know, I just want to be here, and I'm an adult and I have the right to do that. You can't, you know, you don't have to program every day for me like I'm a child.
Right.
That has to be so such a leap for a lot of folks, you know, because
Having the choice.
It becomes, you know, you're being treated like an adult because you are. Yeah, and having that choice. And we're here with Kevin Klein, Executive Director of TVC Cherry Capital Airport. Where are we going, Kevin?
Well, we have 20 nonstop destinations to choose from. Dallas.
Yes.
You know, I always...
Everybody wants to go to Texas, man.
You know, and Texas is not only a great market for leisure for us, but it's also a great market for business. And a lot of our companies here in Northern Michigan do business in that Northern Texas, Oklahoma area, that Dallas is a great nonstop destination. Houston.
Oh, I love it.
Houston will be operating this year nonstop. You know, I love Houston going down there. We went to the Kennedy Space Center. If you're a space nut, let me tell you, that is a fun tour to go through that facility and see all the rockets.
So many opportunities for all of you to make your summer travel plans right now. Best way to do that is go to
tvcairport.com.
Love it. I want to talk a little bit about inclusion, and people often think, you know, about ramps or accessible buildings or, you know, having just sort of an idea, especially in intellectual or developmental disabilities, just, you know, kind of understanding or being a little more informed about that. But true inclusion is really a lot bigger than that. What does inclusion really look like to you, Jamie?
Well, it really looks like meeting people where they are and really forming authentic relationships with people and kind of paving the way for people to just feel safe enough to show their needs and their desires. So really just connecting with people on a deeper level, knowing that every person who walks through our doors has different abilities and has different needs.
And, you know, Kate, I know you shared some personal reasons why you and your husband, you know, are involved in this, but what do you think are some misconceptions that we have, even in 2026, about adults living with developmental and intellectual disabilities?
I think some of the misconceptions is that they have severe limitations. They don't have maybe the same value proposition when creating friendships and meaningful relationships. That they have different needs for social engagement than fully abled adults. That they don't have maybe they don't have the I don't say right, but the need to engage at all the different levels that we get to enjoy with others. I think those are some of the largest miscommunication.
Anything to add to that? Do you think any misconceptions that still exist today?
Absolutely. I think that we are still learning as a society how to accept differences. And I think that when people are around people who are different than them, sometimes there is a pause that happens because people don't know how to respond. And so us planning activities, getting these members out into the community and engaged makes not only our members happy and fulfilled, but it's really healthy for our community at large to be interacting with people who are a little bit different than them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Jamie. Anybody who comes in and visits our clubhouse or spends any time with our members, they walk away feeling great.
Yeah.
I mean, this world needs a lot more kindness, a lot more empathy, a lot more engagement, and that's what you get when you come into our clubhouse. There's an amazing energy, and you cannot walk away without a smile.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't wait to visit, honestly. I think it sounds amazing. You mentioned some activities, and you're doing some summertime activities this year. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing?
Yeah, so we are proud to offer free activities to all of our members. So anything from cool things happening at the clubhouse to getting out and going to a pit spitters game or seeing live music. These are things that we're doing. So we have a full schedule. We have a new wonderful activity director who came on.
Oh, wonderful.
And she is keeping everyone busy and giving some great opportunities for engagement. So we are going to be moving and visible even more in the coming months. We are super excited. We just received funding for a bus.
Oh, wow.
And this is going to be a game changer for our organization. So really looking forward to getting in the community.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that is one of the challenges of living in a rural community is that the transportation of moving people from point A to point B when you need, to be helped is difficult. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
So this is incredibly exciting for us that we'll be able to not only bring more people to us at the clubhouse, but get out into the community and really engage with, everybody up here in Northern Michigan.
So how can, maybe some other local organizations or local businesses, how can they become part of creating really a more welcoming community and to try to push back against those misconceptions? Any ideas about that?
I think that having conversations like these, it's a great starting point. But I think just opening your doors in a way that is authentic and patient and not afraid to ask questions about if people need certain accommodations is a great place to be. I think that we have a wonderful, welcoming community, and I think that this is a population that sometimes people forget to consider them in the day-to-day, but as soon as people's eyes open, I think there's a whole lot of compassion and care around us.
So this is a real, obviously a grassroots movement, started by people with life experience who knows, they all know that there is a need for this. You've got an incredible board. And, as the president of the board, you've done an amazing job in just a few years of shaping this organization into, an idea to having 2 staff members and continuing to grow and having space. I can't imagine what your strategic plan looks like. It's got to be just amazing. But can you give us kind of an idea of your dreams for Better Together over the next 5 years?
Well, we're pretty lucky and fortunate that we've had experience in other not-for-profits that support this community in the Midwest. So Rob and I came with a bit of a blueprint when we were invited to join the board. And we'd seen firsthand just the importance of that, the social aspects of and that peer engagement and the foundational programming on things like the arts and recreation and nutrition. And so we really want it to be a multifaceted, very dynamic programming, at the same time being nimble and flexible for people that maybe don't want to, they just want to dip their toe in and kind of, watch for a while to see how they could fit into it. But we are looking at, we've doubled our membership in the last year.
Unbelievable.
We're looking at adding, we think we know there's upwards of 250 adults in Northern Michigan that are living with disabilities, intellectual disabilities. We currently have 80 members. We're looking at adding another 40 in the next probably 6 to 8 months. We really want to be a recognizable brand and a resource that people know they can come to. But we want to be able to continue 2 things. One, building out this dynamic programming with at the same time letting people kind of be who they want to be when they come into the clubhouse. But also connecting, as we said earlier, to the other services up here. We really are better together when we are working, all rowing in the same direction. So that's probably the focus for the next 12 months is building out our members, building out our volunteers. We will be starting a volunteer campaign very soon. We're very fortunate that we have some great volunteers, but we do want to build out our volunteer base. But just assessing all of the existing resources and seeing how we can, just work even better together in tandem.
So obviously, you're in need of volunteers. This is mission-based, so donations, keeping these activities free for members is a very important part. expanding that membership. It's amazing to me that you have doubled your membership in a year with very limited marketing.
Very limited, yes.
It is kind of a word of mouth situations. What about working more closely with some of those other, maybe school-based and other programs, so that you can bridge that when people are crossing into Better Together? Are you working with other area nonprofits to do that?
Absolutely. So we are connected with many nonprofits who are also invested in this mission and serving this population. We're working alongside with the ACE program,
Yes.
Brickways, GTI. We have a great relationship with them. And so knowing that we're not in this alone and we're stronger when we can connect and come together.
That's so great. And, the other aspect of this, too, in looking for volunteers is, I often wonder, especially for families of adults with intellectual and development disabilities, it's kind of like the families get tapped for the volunteer work. And you're really trying to give the families a little bit of respite and let them enjoy each other and socialize, or, quite frankly, get your hair done.
Right.
Go do something, because caregiving is so demanding. So you really are reaching past that, which I think is unique, because I think a lot of other sort of organizations just maybe end up asking family members and caregivers to volunteer to do these, activities and things, and you're actively trying to avoid that.
We are, but at the same time, the parents and the caregivers, the families of our members want to be involved.
They want to be involved.
So we have to kind of balance
You're
it.
balancing.
We're like, no, you need some you time.
Yeah, like, hey, that's another. I'm wondering about that too. If there are businesses that want to get involved too, to offer up maybe a spa day for somebody who's a caregiver or something like that, that would be amazing.
Oh, we are really excited about some of the programming that we can offer parents and caregivers. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you're growing. Donations, volunteers, community partners, all of those other folks that maybe are looking to get involved, and then expanding the membership. So if someone is listening right now and they have an adult in their life who may benefit from Better Together, like, how do they get involved? What do they do?
They should check out our website.
Okay.
wearebettertogethernm.org, and you can find everything that you need right there. Give us a call. We would love to welcome you in, show you the space, and get to know you and your loved ones. So we're right in Traverse City.
Great space.
We've got lots going on, and we would love to see some new faces.
So I want to finish things off with a little bit of rapid fire. Sometimes we do this on the show. And for each of you, if you want to give me your first thought about this, in one word to describe Better Together. Let's start with you, Jamie.
Warm.
Oh, I love that.
Fulfillment.
Fulfillment. These are great words. The favorite activity so far that you've hosted?
Our summer festival.
Yeah.
Yep. Tie-dye, hot dogs.
So fun. Yeah. How about you?
We had this great dog trainer come in and brought his 3 or 4 dogs that were all dressed up, and we had all the families there, and the dogs kind of ran around in their costumes, and it was,
That's amazing.
It was so much fun. Yeah.
That sounds so much fun. What is the most joyful moment that you've witnessed so far?
Just the friendships form, a lot of laughter and a lot of hugs.
I love that. Yeah. And really seeing the mission. I mean, right before your eyes, you're seeing it happen.
I think what's been most impactful from my perspective is just watching the parents, just the joy, but also relief. Like, they finally have somewhere where they can gain, some support and companionship and connection with other parents and who are relatable. But just watching them look at their children and just be like, okay, we're here.
And we're going to be okay.
We're happy.
Yeah. And it's going to be okay. Like, I think that's a big thing too, especially as parents who have children who are, aging out of some of those youth-focused programs or school-focused programs into adulthood. They also, in the back of their mind, are going, okay, I need to build community, help my child build community.
Every day, all day, they're thinking about that.
Yeah. I'm getting goosebumps. That's fantastic. What is one thing that the members have taught you, Jamie?
Well, they teach me a lot of things, but lightness and slowing down and maybe not taking things so seriously.
Oh, I love that. How about you?
Oh, enjoy the moment.
Yeah, like mindfulness.
Lean it, yes.
Yeah,
Be aware and just be thankful.
that's fantastic. Last one. I just want you to finish the sentence. Community is...
A sense of belonging.
Oh, that's beautiful, Jamie. Oh, community is the support and inclusion.
I would say, too, community is better together. There you go. I love that. Jamie and Kate, I want to say thank you for sharing your hearts today and for sharing your thoughts. Organizations like Better Together remind us that inclusion isn't simply inviting people into a space, it's making sure they truly belong. If you'd like to learn more about Better Together of Northern Michigan, volunteer or donate or learn about upcoming programs and activities that we were talking about today, you can visit their website or follow them on Facebook. Thank you both for everything that you're doing for our community. And I want to say that website is wearebettertogethernm.org. And again, looking for volunteers and other ways for you to get involved. And thank you for another edition of The Conversation. It's brought to you by TVC Cherry Capital Airport, your Northern Michigan connection, and we'll see you next time.